jumped the gun a little. I probably jumped the gun a little bit with my acknowledgement of country, but since Peter's already done that, I don't need to. I'm on the Camaragal country. If you know your country, I don't know if the chat space is available, but you're welcome to put your chat space your country in the chat space. So welcome everybody. My name's, as Peter said, Vicki Ibbotson, and I'm pleased to share insights from the 2 postgraduate units I coordinate at UTAS, this being CNA 544, which is Simulation in Health Teaching, and CNA 632, which is Learning and Teaching in Healthcare Settings. So these units are part of the Advanced Practice program and are designed to equip current clinicians with advanced educational capabilities. So both are offered fully online, both are actually recently been completely rewritten with designers and myself and other key people, in the areas. So we generally have, in the simulation subject, we have about 150 students and about 5 tutors. In the 632, we have about 450 students and about 10 tutors, because the 632 is offered as an elective with a lot of other core streams. So I'll be sharing some practical insights and innovations from these units designed to, help educators. So the presentation will walk through our rationale for innovation in clinical teaching, an overview of the 2 units, and examples of teaching innovations, including simulation, peer feedback, and critical technology use. I'll share insights into authentic assessments, student feedback, and practical tips that can be applied, hopefully, in your own settings. So the healthcare landscape is evolving. So educators are tasked with preparing clinicians for increasingly complex roles where interprofessional, collaboration, ethical reflection, and patient safety are paramount. So our traditional, perhaps lecture style or lecture-based, or we know that there are some perhaps approaches that we've used in the past might fall a bit short. So innovations in clinical teaching are necessary to meet adult learners where they are professionally and cognitively. So modern healthcare environments, as we know, are dynamic, fast-paced, and interprofessional. So our teaching strategies must match that complexity while empowering students to become confident, ethical, and capable educators themselves. So innovations in clinical teaching are essential to create learning that is active, meaningful, and aligned with real practice. So if we look at CNA 544, so it focuses on simulation pedagogy. So students learn to design, facilitate, and debrief simulation activities using contemporary best practice. And I believe that we are one of the only courses in Australia where it's the complete focus of the course is simulation. And I truly believe, and I think the students, seem to agree with me when I'm kind of chatting to them in the last webinar, that it really, sets them up with expert skills in simulation. In 632, it provides a more of a theoretical underpinning, looking at adult learning principles, reflective practice, and feedback methodology. So both units prioritise application to the learner's current healthcare context. So it is a lot of focus where students can bring in their own issue, their own education needs into the course as part of their assessment tasks. So the learning is supported by weekly webinars, or they're recorded for flexibility. We have lots of digital tools, H5P interactive modules, use a lot of Padlets for collaborative dialogue. Feedback Fruits is also used for structured peer review. So the 2 units provide a contemporary foundation, one in looking in immersive simulation practice, and the other looking at theoretical underpinnings of effective teaching. So innovation is embedded throughout both units. So 544, simulation forms the foundation of experiential learning. Students also engage in peer feedback and have structured reflection to enhance learning. 632 introduces the interactive digital tools and encourages interprofessional dialogue, mirroring the real healthcare environments. So assessment is scaffolded to mirror the real educator's roles. So in 544, simulation subject progresses from planning to implementing a full simulation and leading a debrief. This mirrors the real-world life cycle of a simulation project in clinical settings. So the idea is that they come in, first of all, they have to come in, they have to do a needs assessment of their own clinical settings. Of, it's no good setting up a simulation if it's not a key thing that's needed. So they have to do this needs assessment. They then write the plan and using structures, and of course we've got webinars and online resources, and then that's their second assignment, that they actually design a simulation. And then their final assignment is that we do an oral assessment where they come in and they talk about, or they do a reflection live with a tutor, one-on-one, about their debrief and the strengths and weaknesses of their debriefing methods. In 632, the assessments, the first assignment is probably kind of pretty traditional sort of essay, but it's looking at adult learning theories. So students get to apply the theory, then they work through reflection, cumulating to the use of video for feedback to critically examine teaching practices. So all these tasks are relevant, they're performance-based and deeply reflective. So we scaffold learning from understanding theory to evaluating and applying teaching strategies, including delivering constructive feedback in the clinical setting. So the final assignment, they actually have to produce a video of giving constructive feedback to a student. Of course, it's scripted and acted, but they can use AI, and we have sort of woven throughout the subject. We have using contemporary platforms such as AI, so they can actually use that to with their video at the end if they want to. That's optional. And all students get access to Copilot. It's free with their enrollment. So simulation provides a psychologically safe space for learners to practice, reflect, and grow. So our students design simulations relevant to their own workplace and lead structured debriefs using techniques like PEARLS or the advocacy inquiry. So the oral debrief assessment helps them internalize their skills, building their confidence as facilitators. Simulation provides a psychologically safe space for students to fail forward or critically reflect on practice decisions, essential professional growth. So there's a big focus on psychological safety in their design of their simulations, because we all know that there's, a lot of people fear that the simulation genre because of the impact that it could have on them emotionally. So psychological safety is a key thing there in the design. So both units use a suite of technologies to enhance engagement and interaction. So as I mentioned before, H5P modules promote self-paced interactive content. We've got Padlets, sharing of visual and inclusive format. We've got feedback fruits, looking at constructive criteria-based peer review. Last year, we introduced AI, and we've got some tools in there, and we also have scripts that they could use, but to help them with reflection on ethics and biases and critical appraisal in teaching materials. So these technologies make learning more accessible, collaborative, and aligned with the digital healthcare environment. So these innovations make learning more flexible and more authentic. But we've got to, this probably comes through in 632 in their second assignment, but technology should serve the learning goals, not distract from them. So in 632, students have to critically assess digital tools in the context of a real healthcare teaching. So they're asked to, there's 10 scenarios that they can choose from, or they can actually develop their own, where they've used some form of technology in their teaching, but it has to have purpose and meaning. So you might be asking me, well, what do your students think about this? And look, I could do pages and pages of student feedback, but students consistently highlight transformative learning. They gain confidence through simulation and shift from content delivery to learner-focused facilitation. So many students go on to lead education in their own clinical areas. In fact, I'm often, even in mid-course, I've got students that are wanting to get extensions because all of a sudden they've been given the role of the clinical educator, and they're taking on extra work, and they're needing extensions on their assignment. So it's even while the course is 14 weeks, but even while they're doing the course, I can see that people are just moving down their careers, which is good for them, but sometimes it's tricky with extensions on assessment tasks. But anyway, students consistently comment on how simulation practice deepens their professional identity and ability to lead education in real settings. So from 632, which is looking more at the learning theories, the reflections show how transformative learning students move from passive recipients to active designers of educational experiences. So many of these ideas are easily transferable to clinical education teams, particularly around simulation, peer feedback, reflective learning practices. So simulation and debriefing can be integrated into team meetings or training days. So peer feedback builds on a culture of collaboration and technology, and should serve the learning, not only the way around. So there's lots of things that they get that from the course, but that they can also use in other aspects of their clinical practice. So perhaps the key takeaways from today is that the educator's role is evolving. We must move beyond delivering information to designing experience that foster capability, compassion, and confidence. And snowboarding has got nothing to do with my talk today, but I just put that in there just in case I was losing your attention. So here's a quick slide of perhaps some of the references that I've used, and then maybe, I don't know if we want to do questions now or if we want to move on to the next speaker, and I'm happy to come back to questions at the end. And there's my contact details. If perhaps after this session, if you've got any questions or you want to collaborate on anything, I'm very open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Vicki. It's wonderful to hear about all these concepts which are part of the delivery of your course. We do have 5 minutes for questions, so before we move on to the next presentation. So I just open it for questions. So are there any questions for Vicki? I can't see any questions coming up, so
I'll stop sharing my screen, and
that will be great, Vicki. Thank you.
Thank you everyone.